Greetings, everyone. My name is Buck Business. Konnichiwa. I'm Kawaii Critic. And today we're here to finally return from the hiatus of this channel to once again dive deep into My Little Pony. The Beginning of the End, Part 1 and 2. Of course, with the added notion that this season, Season 9, is indeed the last season of My Little Pony. And we're here to figure out with each episode, whether it will do well or flounder in the water. So, with that being said, this episode begins with the main six being summoned to the main castle, where Twilight-san is freaking out the most. And it turns out that Celestia-san and her sister want to retire. And this little moment is quickly interrupted by Discord-san. And thus, this is where our issues begin. You see, Discord, at least in more recent episodes, has been rather poorly written. And at first glance, at least in this episode, he is actually written more effectively here. However, as a consequence to this, it makes the other characters feel really stupid later on, and that's just another issue that pops up. Speaking of stupidity, or stupid writing, why is it that Rainbow-san mentions that the princesses never help? I'm sorry, but when did she get the power of Pinkie Pie-san? I mean, seriously, why is Rainbow-san out of all the characters pointing this out? It just makes the joke way less funny and come out of character for Rainbow-san. And the others get in on this, and again, it just feels like something Pinkie Pie would start. Anyways, they do their whole trying to help secure Twilight-san's sanity, and we do move on. From here, we see that Chrysalis, Tyrek, Koziglo, and King Sombra is summoned by our new villain of this season, Grogar. He displays his magical capabilities by giving Tyrek only some of his strength and body back. And we do see, to this episode's little credit, a little bit of chemistry between these villains. And then Sombra goes on stepping on up and makes this deal with Grogar that if he succeeds, he can, do his old takeover and have what he wants, but if he fails, he will die and be left dead. And just to save some time, if this is the last appearance of Sombra, then this use of him is greatly underutilized. Meanwhile, Starlight-san checks in with Twilight-san, and this is during her spiral phase, or as they refer to it as twilighting. It is at this point that the moral is made very, very clear. And to our not so shocking way of ways, this is an exact rehash of another episode as far as morals are concerned. In fact, this is very akin to when Twilight-san thought she had to send Starlight-san away, and who was also involved in that episode? Discord-san. And what did Discord-san? The exact same thing. Trick Twilight-san, and then get duped in the end when nothing changes. That is the sign of a pretty obviously poorly written episode. And since we can't lean on our heroes to do anything good, It is unfortunately up to the villain to step up. And as we do cut back to Sombra, he does do a pretty effective job of taking over. But while this take-on is going on, there is one lingering question that just drags this entire episode down. Why is Sombra doing this? And upon that simple reflection of a simple question, it really just becomes crystal clear, perhaps pun intended, that his motivation is so poorly established. He just wants to rule, and that's it? And ultimately, this is where this two-parter fails, writing-wise. He was brought back as a poorly defined character. Heck, I would argue that he is actually one of the worst written characters. I mean, let's do the comparison. We have our reformed characters like Starlight in Discord, which their writing is wavy and goes back and forth between either pretty good or really, really bad. And that makes their characters inconsistent, and that is pretty bad. However, I think there is a far worse symptom in writing, and that's making a character boring, and that is exactly what sums up Sombra here. He is a boring character with so little motivation. And to make matters worse is that he just goes on with the cliches and the monologues that are just so predictable and just so obvious, and it just sends season 9 start into a very bad state. There's nothing that really sets him apart, and even by standards of if this is a show for kids, then even by that bar, it is so extremely low, considering that in the past, MLP has been known to sort of push the envelope from time to time. And again, this is just so generic and bland. Moving along, however, Discord-san updates the crew, and they leave to go on to face Sombra-san, and he fears them rather briefly, and then he gets all harmonized by the elements as they went to go get them after their little bit on that. So yes, they do use their Rainbow Blast on Sombra-san and then place them back. However, by some means of whatever, Sombra-san somehow lives and appears and shatters the elements. And this raises so many questions. Does that mean the other times the elements were used, they were supposed to be that weak? Question mark? Why is it only partially destroying Sombra-san? What is happening? Why is the power scaling so off? It just doesn't make sense. At any rate, this does bring us into the second part, where the main six gets trapped by Sombra, and he tells them that he's going to use the ponies of Ponyville to try to invade the main empire. So after some sulking, they eventually dig their way out, and Twilight's doubts continue to push her in that one direction. While the forest grows continually out of control, without their main elements to hold them back, the main six try to fend off this growing forest, but the princesses and Star Swirl arrive to recreate the scene where the two princesses pushed back the weather. That is a one-for-one recreation just so we can once again say, hey look, the princesses are doing something. It doesn't matter how much of a something it is, as long as they're doing something apparently that's good, whether it's pushing back weather or pushing back a forest. Congratulations, I suppose you deserve a golden star. So, the main six get to the castle where they have to face off against the other ponies, and after some trapping, they decide that they need to teleport their way inside. And just when their troubles are just getting alleviated, Discord-san once again arrives on the scene. So while Discord is doing his own little monologue, he ends up getting hit by one of Sombra's blast, and everyone gets shocked. And here we go. Discord hams up this whole performance, and it's just terrible. I mean, for him, it's a very in-character moment. And the only character I would believe would still fall for this is Fluttershy. After all, she does have a tendency to fall under pretty bad acting. However, everyone else also falls for this facade. It's kind of embarrassing and baffling, if anything else. I mean, quite frankly, they have fallen for this nonsense far too many times for this to still be happening. Anyway, the main six do hear his speech, and that does give them the confidence to use their own power of French and boom magic laser beam of rainbows without the elements. And Sombra-san dies for a second time, fading into oblivion. Celestia-san arrives, and we keep that moral that we had before, but now just on a much bigger scale. Discord-san pieces out, and the main six are all happy. But it ends with Grogar-san showing the rest of the evil crew what befell Sombra-san. And they all submit. And with that, it comes to a close. And that was our first two episodes. And quite frankly, so much of this episode's success feels like it falls on Sombra's comeback. And unfortunately, he doesn't come back that well. He's just such a wasted character. And I believe a crucial moment of this episode boils down to when he arrives in the room with Flurry Heart. That is when it all hit me. We could have had so much more potential in this one moment, and they wasted it. They could have easily fixed this with one simple look with no words hit in the dialogue. You see, when he comes across Flurry Heart, I think it would have been far more interesting to see him with a more, well, sour or forlorn expression, as if to express, yeah, he's evil, but perhaps he doesn't go 100% evil. There is something in this world that would make him think otherwise. And again, by not having him say any dialogue, this would leave the look up to interpretation. This is a very akin to show but don't tell. Again, this story is a story we have seen before, just on a slightly bigger scale. And with that, what this episode needed to set itself apart was a great villain, but we didn't get that. Unfortunately, this episode is so much more focused on trying to set up Grogar that it doesn't focus on what's actually in this episode, and that is where this episode ultimately fails. And with that, this is not a good sign. Season 9 is off to a rather poor start. But we will continue pressing forward to see how many successful episodes this season does eventually have. Hopefully, it will be more than Season 8. But we shall wait and see. So, if you enjoyed our review, then please feel free to like and comment on this video. And, well, since we are probably, since this channel is probably going to die, I suppose you could subscribe, but I don't really ultimately see the point in that. But I will leave a link in the description so that if you did enjoy this video, you can still subscribe to the main channel. So, until next time everyone, farewell. Bye-bye! See you next time!